October 3rd, 2023. Welcome to episode 60 of the Old Man Magic podcast. We've got a few topics planned for today. We're going to discuss a cycle of color hosers from the 1997 set Tempest. I'm currently searching for the best sideboard cards to play in Premodern, so I'm reviewing a lot of these color hoser type cards.
Ah, I see.
That's where this topic came from. And
yeah,
we're going to review some of the new Lord of the Rings products Wizards is releasing this holiday season. So we got a little bit of old stuff, a little bit of new stuff. But first, we have some follow-ups. We got quite a few follow-ups to last episode, Alex, on the slivers, actually. One quick follow-up I wanted to discuss. It was a question I had about the hibernation sliver, crystalline sliver interaction. We did actually figure this out on air, but I wanted to reiterate it. This is very basic stuff, people, but sometimes I forget the basics. I found the exact question that I had asked on Reddit. Pull this up right here. Is hibernation sliver's bounce effect considered a targeted effect? I'm thinking for the purpose of interactions with Shroud from Crystalline Sliver. So I was like, oh, what happens if I play my Crystalline Sliver? I think I can still bounce a sliver back to my hand using hibernation sliver's effect. Is that the case? The answer is yes, it was the case. Hibernation sliver doesn't say return target. It says return this. If the card doesn't actually use the word target, then it's not a targeted effect. That's something very basic that I have to remember. So that was follow-up 1. Very basic follow-up. Follow-up 2. This is related to our discussion about victuals and vittles, aka victuals. When we were talking about this, I said that there aren't two words that mean the same thing. I misspoke. There are definitely two words that mean the same thing. There are just not two words with two different pronunciations that mean the same thing. They are two words. Going to pull up good old Merriam-Webster here. Vittle. V-I-T-T-L-E. If I hit this, Alex, can you hear it?
No.
Vittle.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Vittle.
Vittle.
That's exactly how I pronounce V-I-T-T-L-E. Vittle.
Just the way a robot would pronounce it.
Now, when you go to victual, aka vittle, listen to how Merriam-Webster pronounces this.
Vittle.
Vittle. Crazy. Two words, though. Two different words. Variant spellings.
Been the same the whole time.
They mean the same. Have the same pronunciation. Again, I might be wrong. If a listener knows more, let me know that I'm wrong. But I don't believe I'm wrong. Merriam-Webster is telling me that I'm correct. Did you have something you wanted to say about Vittle Sliver or something related to our Vittle Sliver conversation?
The Vittle Sliver, we were kind of meh on it, and I was looking at it again afterwards. And the one thing I did want to mention is I'm not sure if we brought this up or if we glossed over it, but it is a 2/2 for 2 mana. And I thought that was, and the same thing with the Spine Sliver. They're both 2/2s for 2 mana. So that might make them a little bit better than we gave them credit for. Also, with Vittle Sliver, since it lets you gain life, we were kind of like life gain is underwhelming. One thing I was thinking about with 5-color sliver decks, you might be running a lot of Pain Lands, Cities of Brass. You might be doing a lot of damage to yourself with your mana base. So having the Vittle Sliver or the Essence Sliver might kind of come in handy, because of your City of Brass, etc. damage.
It is true. It's a 2/2 for 2. The life gain ability, I get where you're coming from. Not terrible. It's just that in the context of all the other slivers, do you put this in?
I still like sacrificing them to do damage with the black and red sliver more.
That's where I go to. That's the direction I go.
I didn't have like a hard change of opinion on this. I just thought it was worth bringing up.
I put one acidic sliver in my deck. I haven't been going with I almost said victual sliver. Vittle Sliver. Spine Sliver. This is the other one you brought up. This is also a 2/2 for 2.
Yeah.
This is good. Can't remember exactly what I said about it. I'm not running it currently. But it was in the red-green sliver deck that we looked at.
Yeah.
It was
And
on the Premodern Magic blog, and it is quite good. And I do remember when I brought this up, you said, "Oh, it's similar to Rampage," and I didn't quite get where you were coming from at that time. But I do see where you're coming from. It does get a plus that doesn't require you to pay anything extra. It's not an activated ability that you have to pay for.
Yeah, you don't have to spend mana on it. Yeah. I'm still on the fence about this one. I made a sliver deck, and then I made an almost exactly the same version of the same sliver deck, a little bit different. And I have this, I think like 2 copies in the one. I'm kind of, I think I'm going to try it for a little while at least. Anyways, that was all.
I do like it. A 2/2 for 2 isn't bad.
One thing I wanted to mention too is that I messed up with the misform sliver. I think I read it wrong and was not talking about what it does correctly at all.
You read it wrong, and then I just also read it wrong and went along with it. Because well, no, I didn't read it wrong. Here's the thing: this happens all the time. I read it out loud on the show.
Yeah.
So I read it correctly, but it registered incorrectly in my brain. This happens on a regular basis.
Me too.
Yeah, we were talking about this as if you could use Mistform Sliver to turn slivers into, to turn other creature types into a sliver.
Yeah, and you can
No.
You can only add a new creature type to a sliver, which would have pretty marginal use.
I would think so.
Less use than being able to turn other things into slivers, I feel like. But
if you have an opponent that's playing a Gabagool deck, if you don't know what a Gabagool deck is, it's a zombie goblin deck with Drownew's Crusade. It's a Gabo Ghouls. I think I made that up.
You did.
And they put down a Drownew's Crusade to give all the zombies +1/+1.
Yeah.
And turn all goblins into zombies. You can make your slivers plus zombies.
Yes, and that would be good for you. But yeah.
They're playing a goblin deck and they have a goblin king out. You can pay 1 to make your slivers and goblins.
So maybe a sideboard against, for your sliver deck against decks like that.
Some sort of clan deck, yeah.
Yeah.
Some clan anthem deck.
That's cool. So yeah, and then I said you could use this with Sliver Overlord to turn things into slivers and steal them. So that was obviously incredibly wrong. So just to mention that.
We were wrong about that. Another thing, this is the last follow-up, I think, about the tunneling mechanic. We were talking about new mechanics.
This was interesting.
Potential future mechanics that Wizards hasn't come up with yet, but maybe they could come up with. We were talking about flying. I said, why is there no double flying, double flight?
Right. Yep.
Flyers that cruise at an even higher altitude than your typical flyer, so they can't even be blocked by flyers. One of us said, what about a tunneling mechanic? You could go under all creatures. This is not exactly what we were imagining, but I learned that there actually is a mechanic called tunneling. There's a tunneling mechanic. It's just different than the potential future mechanic we were talking about. I found this on the flying section of the MTG Wiki page. Can't be blocked by creatures with flying. Some creatures without flying can't be blocked by creatures with flying. This is a red ability and is sometimes nicknamed tunneling. So there are apparently some cards that are red and they can't be blocked by flying creatures. Some creatures. Whoa, what's going on here?
Or give that ability to other creatures.
Give that ability to other creatures. However, that's not even the official tunneling mechanic. That's a mechanic that is sometimes nicknamed tunneling.
Yeah,
There's an official tunneling mechanic that is more often used for an ability that says target creature with power 2 or less is unblockable this turn.
Okay.
That's quite a weird mechanic. I kind of get where they're going. It's very flavorful. It's like, oh, it has to be power 2 or less. It's like a small critter.
Yeah.
Like a groundhog or something.
You can send a Fivel the mouse through their lines.
And then I saw it mentioned on the Blogatog site, Mark Rosewater's blog. Question, whatever happened to tunneling? We still do it, just infrequently. Tunneling, for those unaware, is target creature with power 2 or less is unblockable this turn. Isn't there a Legends card that's like that?
Maybe.
Amru
From
Kithkin,
Legends.
or actually she might be unblockable for creatures with power 2 or more. We're gonna go on a very brief
We'll find out.
side quest here. Kithkin, something Kithkin. I don't think this is tunneling. Amru Kithkin. Amru Kithkin can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. Okay.
Okay.
So it's
Similar.
not. Yeah, but not quite the same. So those are the follow-ups. I think those were all of the follow-ups to the last episode. With those out of the way, we're going to get on to the first major segment of the show. Segment 1, where we discuss the double hoser cycle from Tempest. Why do I want to talk about these? Well, a couple reasons. One, we're going through a lot of these older sets. We're starting with the sets that we actually played with a little bit, but we've still forgotten a lot of the cards. For people who don't know, we played back in the 90s. We kind of quit playing late 90s, 2000, and then we picked the game back up in 2021. So we're trying to remember all of the things we used to do back in the day. And eventually we're going to start going through all the sets that were printed after we stopped playing. Right now we're on Tempest. We still played during Tempest, but I forget a lot of the stuff that was actually in Tempest. I'm going through these older sets. I want to spend some time on some of the lesser known cards, the cards that I don't remember at all, despite the fact that this was during like our peak playing days. I've forgotten a lot in the last 20 some years. That's one reason. Another reason is I'm building pre-modern decks. Tempest is right there in the middle of the pre-modern era. And one thing that I never used to do back in the day that I want to start getting better at is build sideboards.
Yeah.
We never really played competitively. We played just amongst each other in our small play group. We had our 60 card constructed decks. We never had like pre-constructed sideboards to go along with those decks.
I kind of did, but I never really used them, because like what you said, like I kind of do it as like a, exercise, I guess, and we would talk about what cards to sideboard. But you're right, we didn't have much use for them.
I never really did it. I mean, my version of sideboarding back in the day was if you had a 60 card deck that your friend was always stomping, you could just go through your collection and be like, okay, what are the cards that I can put into this deck now that's going to help me beat
just
Dave?
going to change my deck to deal with Alex.
So it wasn't like an official sideboard. It wasn't what people think of as sideboard. We would just go through our collection and be like, okay, I'm pissed. What do I need to beat this guy?
Also, we just swap decks a lot of the times. We'd have a couple decks and we'd be like, okay, I'm tired of losing against this deck. I'm going to swap to something else,
But, I want to start building sideboards. Color hate cards make some of the best sideboard cards. I want to familiarize myself with all of the color hate cards that are out there. That's what this cycle is all about, this double hoser cycle.
I always kind of thought so too, and I always liked color hate cards back then. I didn't play them against, my friends casually, really, partially because there's a bit of a people think you're a jerk if you do it.
It's actually, so color hate cards, great. Tournament sideboards, it's actually kind of rude.
Well, people say it's rude. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Not rude in tournament format, but like if your friend loves playing blue decks and all you ever do is like load every deck you play against them with 4 tsunamis to destroy other islands, like that gets,
they're gonna get annoyed. Yeah.
Because really they're color hate cards, like you can find a few to just totally hose any single deck. Like if that's what you wanted to do, you could do that constantly.
Yeah, I think the idea is sort of like if you're going to build a deck, you're always kind of building it to, you don't know who you're going to play against. You don't know what your friend is going to play. You don't know who you're going to meet at the card store. So if you want to risk throwing a color hate card in your deck against green or blue or whatever specific color, like you might not get to use it. So now you have to put in like one of every color, or you have to, you're not naturally going to stack your deck with anti-blue color hate, unless it's because you're mad at your friend.
Exactly. And then that gets rude.
Yeah.
But this cycle, it's larger than most. So instead of 5 cards, 1 for each color, there's 10. We have 10 uncommon spells, 2 for each color, that make life more difficult for their enemy color. I'm going to begin with the white spells. The first one I want to talk about is Light of Day. Light of Day. This is an uncommon from Tempest. Also in 6th edition and the list. I said it cost 1 white. It definitely doesn't cost 1 white. It costs 3 colorless, 1 white. It's an enchantment. When you play Light of Day, black creatures cannot attack or block. Very straightforward. Had a rating of 3.375 on Gatherer. Current market price of 28 cents.
Okay.
Straightforward color hoser. Makes appearances in sideboards of some current Premodern decks on tcdecks.net. If you love changing colors and you want to combo this, you have multiple options to do so. And this is going to be true for like every color hoser card. You could always, if you wanted to take a risk, and well, I guess it's not taking as much of a risk because you don't have to have your opponent playing a particular color for this to work. But I should say, if you want to remove 2 cards from your deck that could be doing other things and just try to run some sort of color hoser combo, you could always run these cards with
Slate of Mind for like this one.
Sleight of Mind.
This is a magical hack or
1 blue, Interrupt. Now an instant, change the text of target permanent or spell by replacing all instances of 1 color with another. I knew that one from back in the day. I didn't know this one. There's been a lot more of these type of cards printed since we quit. Whim of Volrath.
oh, okay.
Tempest. Again, we played here, but I have no memory of this card. 1 blue, instant, with a buyback of 2. Change the text of target permanent by replacing all instances of 1 color word or basic land type with another until end of turn.
Wow, okay, so that's just better.
It's
right?
just better.
Did I miss something?
I don't think so, because I'm reading it and I think it's just better. 1, you can buy it back.
Yeah.
2, you can change the text to read 1 color word over another,
Yeah.
or you can change 1 basic land type for another, and Slate of Mind does not have that ability.
Because back then, Slate of Mind was sort of like it had the 1 ability, and then Magical Hack had you could change land types.
Yeah.
But this combines them and it gives it a buyback. So holy cow.
Totally forgot about that one. Darkest Hour. This was after we stopped playing Urza's Saga.
Oh, okay.
All creatures are black. So that's a combo that I did see people run. Light of Day, make all creatures black. This is a pretty cool card.
Light of Day, Darkest Hour. I like how the card titles work for the combo too. It's like, sounds neat.
And you don't have to play blue to do this. You know, most of those color change cards are blue. So if you're not playing blue.
Yeah, this gives you a black option. You play white, blue, white, black. Go back to Light of Day if you don't mind. Or do you still want to talk about?
I will right after this. Alter Reality. 1 colorless, 1 blue. Instant. Change the text of target permanent or spell by replacing all instances of 1 color with another. You could also play it flashback.
Okay.
So it's a double Slate of Mind for 2 mana.
Yep.
Light of Day. Go back to Light of Day.
I like the art on this. When I saw it, I was like, oh, it's all wispy and cool. I like it.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of Replenish. And I looked up Replenish. And this card, like, it looks like it could be like the next art panel over from Replenish.
Was it the same person? Do you know? Drew
No,
Tucker.
it's not.
Oh, okay. I really like Drew Tucker. He's an old school artist. He did some of my favorite stuff from the Dark, like the People of the Woods.
Oh yeah,
he's a really creepy, I don't know if I could call it impressionistic style. I'm terrible when it comes to describing art, but there's quite a few cards he did for the Dark, all in this same style. Almost looks like, I mean, I think this is watercolor. Anyways, always like Drew Tucker art. That's Light of Day. Great if you're playing Suicide Black deck, or playing against a Suicide Black deck or some other black aggro deck. Also, you could combo it with different cards. I don't love comboing color hate cards. Some people do. You could use all of these with every other color hate card we're going to discuss today too, like Slate of Mind, Alter Reality, Whim of Volrath. You know, do that for all this stuff.
Real fast.
Oh, okay. replenish. Yeah, they're not in the same set either. So yeah, maybe just accidental.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just accidental, but I just thought it immediately reminded me of it art-wise. I was like, oh, and then look, you could like set it next to it and it looks like it is the same thing happening.
Next color hoser is Warmth, also from Tempest.
I like this one.
I say also from Tempest. All these cards are from Tempest. It is very good. Uncommon, also in Classic 6th edition in the list. I think they reprinted all of these cards from this double hoser cycle in 6th edition too, I think. 1 colorless, 1 white enchantment. Whenever target opponent successfully casts a red spell, you gain 2 life. Has a rating of 3 on Gatherer. I really thought this would be higher. Current market price is 29 cents. So all this stuff is very affordable.
So
Again,
this doesn't work as well if you do like a combo where you change it to a different color. Like if you were to change this from red to a different thing, it wouldn't be as good, I don't think. It's very specifically, what I like about it is that white and red are naturally, enemies. So you're going to have like anti-red cards in white. So it does that. But then it specifically also targets the thing that red is good at, which is dealing damage to you with spells.
Yeah.
One of the things red's good at. So it really hoses direct damage decks.
Again, it's a common sideboard card I saw on Premodern decks on tcdecks.net. Obviously brought in against burn, where it seems best. Really neuters direct damage.
Yeah.
I mean, it completely nullifies any damage, or it nullifies or even gains from any burn spell or burn effect that is below lightning bolt efficiency. And as we learned not that long ago, like they stopped printing lightning bolt consistently. Not that long after we quit, they decided that 3 damage for 1 mana is above rate.
Mm-hmm.
I think the standard rate they started going for with burn spells after that was Shock, which is 2 damage for 1 red. Warmth totally nullifies that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they can still use it on your creatures, but you gain life for it. So yeah.
They can still use it on your creatures. It nullifies Grim Lavamancer. It nullifies Barbarian Ring, that land that you sacrifice to do 2 damage. It nullifies damage from Jackal Pup. It's like so much in red is 2 damage. 2 damage. There's a lot in red that's just 2 damage. It nullifies all of that.
Well, it's only when they cast it, though, remember. So, like, for something like Jackal Pup, it's going to give you 2 life, but then they can keep using it.
That's true. I got to read the card. Not only read the card, but allow what I'm reading to register.
That's why there's 2 of us.
Not the same as creatures, but for all the direct damage spells, if you can neuter all the direct damage spells of a red deck, like it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I even wrote here in my notes, still good, but not as good against repeatable sources of damage like creatures. You might just be delaying the inevitable there, but then I forgot.
Doesn't help you against Scroll Rack either, which some red burn decks have. So they can get around this with Scroll Rack some.
Curse Scroll.
Curse Scroll.
Yeah, that's
true. I always do that. I mix those 2 up. But yeah, this one's not bad. I just like it for what it does specifically. It's like, red direct damage decks.
Next one. We're going to move on to the blue. This card is actually the card that made me first think about this topic, because it was a sideboard card, I think, in one of the Miracle Grow decks we were looking at. And I was like, I need to start building sideboards. Chill. Uncommon from Tempest, also in 6th edition and in a World Championship deck. This was in John Finkel's Tinker deck from the year 2000. In the year 2000.
I don't know if you wanted me to chime in.
I did a bad job on that one.
That's okay.
1 colorless, 1 blue enchantment. Red spells cost an additional 2 colorless to play. Again, really tough for red decks. I mean, I've started playing a burn. I built some pre-modern burn. I've been play testing it against you a little bit to try to get better at running a burn deck. And I mean, a lot of the times you don't have 2 extra mana to start. casting all your spells and emptying your hand. This is tough. This makes things a lot more difficult. It has a rating of 4.451 on Gatherer. I think that's the highest gathering rating of any of the Hoser cards we're going to talk about today. Current
Okay.
market price of 46 cents. I like this even more than Warmth because
Yeah,
it
me too.
delays all the plans of the red deck.
Yeah, it's more broadly good against red as opposed to just direct damage. And yeah, it just slows them down instead of gaining you life is good, but like slowing them down and making their stuff hard to cast is even better.
Mm-hmm. Makes even more sideboard appearances in pre-modern decks on TCG decks than the previous two, as expected. We both agree with that. The Gatherer Raiders agree with that also. I like that it's also like an equally a pain in the ass for goblins as it is for burn, any of the red stuff. Still no main deck appearances. I don't see any of these making main deck appearances, but that's to be expected.
And this would be a good one to change the color of it too, to Whim of Volrath this.
And you're already in blue also.
Yeah. Oh, true,
yeah. Insight is the next blue one. Whoa, where are you at? There we go. Lost in a sea of new border cards. From Tempest, uncommon, also in 6th edition, an enchantment. Whenever target opponent successfully casts a green spell, draw a card. 3.197 on Gatherer, current market price of $1.50. I wrote sideboard for mono green Stompy, ? Are there 15 better cards to bring in against mono green Stompy, ? I mean, that's the only time I would ever really think to bring it in, I guess, if you're playing against a mono green deck.
Yeah.
Blue already has a lot of card draw abilities and scrying abilities, and
you might, like you said, you might just have better options if they're trying to come at you with a bunch of mono green creatures. You might just be better off doing something different.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised this had a rating as high as it did on Gatherer, like over 3. I don't know. I don't see this one coming in for me.
It's another good one to combo with. I hate to sound like a broken record, because we're going to be able to say that with every one of these, but shift it from green spell, and now you have a 3-mana enchantment that's just drawing you cards no matter what. But again, it's blue, so you can draw cards already.
Yeah.
I'd rather do something like propaganda or something that like prevents them from attacking me.
I would too. I don't see this coming into play. I think propaganda is a good thing to call out because this card was reminding me of something. And I think it was reminding me of propaganda, even art-wise, potentially. No. Yes.
Same casting cost.
Yes. 2 colorless, 1 blue enchantment. Each turn, each creature cannot attack you unless the controller pays an additional 2 for that creature. Most green you're going to be facing, it's going to be creature-based. Does anybody run creatureless decks that are heavy on green spells?
Jeez.
Don't think so.
I don't know.
I mean, there might be something out there.
Maybe some kind of like land cycling, landfall sort of thing.
Yeah, something I don't know about, but it's not common. Enchantress.
Still gonna have creatures though.
Still gonna have creatures. It's just not like a mono green Stompy or anything.
Yeah.
Anyways, not my favorite. Let's move on to the black color hosers from Tempest. Perish. Now, this is the kind of card I would prefer to run if I'm facing mono green Stompy.
Yeah. A lot of value for the casting cost. Deals directly with what they're trying to do.
Perish, uncommon from Tempest, also in the Classic 6th edition and a World Championship deck. Jacob Slemmer's Mono Black Control deck from 1999. It is 2 colorless, 1 black, sorcery. Destroy all green creatures. Those creatures cannot be regenerated this turn. River Boa cannot survive. Perish. This is definitely one of my favorites. Definitely one of my 2 favorites so far. I agree with the Gatherer commenters. They agree with me as well. They gave it a 4.333.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's up there with Chill. Current market price of 38 cents. Very popular pre-modern sideboard card. You can bring this in to combat elves decks, which are a huge pain in the ass. You can bring this in to combat the Rock, to use this to get rid of their millions and millions that they've brought into play with Deranged Hermit. I mean, this also gets rid of things like Blastoderm too, right? Yeah, Blastoderm has Shroud.
yeah,
This
like
doesn't target.
untargetable things. Yeah. Plus, it has really cool Rebecca Guai art.
And since you mentioned that, the original Rebecca Guay art for this card is currently up for sale. I don't know if it's sold yet or not. It was up for sale as of September 26th on the MTG Art Market Facebook page. I saw that posted on Twitter by Bill Stark at Bill Tries Again. Change of pace for today's MTG deal a day. The original art for Parish by the incredible Rebecca Guay. It's a private Facebook group, so you may need to join that first. I actually did join. I didn't see what this was at yet, but I was looking through a lot of the art that had been posted on that Facebook page for like the last month, and it seemed like the really nice, like there were plenty of really nice original pieces of artwork, framed, great condition by well-known artists that were going from like 2 to 10K.
Wow.
I think I saw another Rebecca Guay. I think I saw the sales price for the Enchantress's Presence. I think that went around for like 6K or something. So, hey, definitely expensive. Definitely not something I can afford.
Yeah.
But if you want some like really cool original art from something you love, that's actually less than I thought it would be.
Mm. Kind of like
Because
what I thought it would be, I guess. But
original art's so expensive. It's less than I thought it would be. Yeah.
and
Again,
I like
nothing.
this is like this art is cool. Like I don't even know this. I didn't even know this card before, but the art is cool enough and it looks cool enough as like a standalone thing that this would be the kind of like original art that I would want to buy. Like I would buy this just because of how cool it looks by itself. No association with the card.
Yeah, you don't even need to be in Magic the Gathering. You could just like illustration.
Yeah.
And this
then
would be
people
nice to
come
have
over and
framed
be
on
like,
your
"What's
wall.
wrong with you?"
Yeah. And then you'll be like, what? It's the original art on from a card in a demonic children's trading card game that I play titled Parish. Read the flavor text. There will come a time when the voices of soil and seedling will sing only laments. Oracle Impact. What's wrong with this? I don't understand. What's weird about it? The second, so Parish is really good. Definite sideboard option for many black pre-modern decks. Elves is a menace. So anything that can target elves, not target, anything that can wipe elves off the board. Important. The next black card, they come at you hot with Parish. And they don't want to make black too strong. So then they give you Dread of Night as a companion. Not a huge fan of this one. Uncommon from Tempest, also in 6th edition and another World Championship deck. Brian Selden, 1998 Cali Nightmare deck, where he ran Survival of the Fittest, Recurring Nightmare, a diverse creature package. Dread of Night is in that sideboard. It is 1 black, which is good. It's an enchantment. All white creatures get -1/-1. Higher rating than I expected on Gatherer, 3.938. Current market price of 26 cents. This is my least favorite so far. I mean, it's a color hoser, so it's limited in what it can affect. That's true for all the color hosers, but I'm just not that impressed by the actual effect. -1/-1.
Yeah, I wonder what other decks were using at that time. Like if there were a lot of decks running like 1/1 white utility creatures, this would be like really good. It would be good against token or weenie decks that aren't like pumping immediately. But if you're trying to play against like the traditional white pump, white weenie kind of deck, I feel like maybe this would just be like a minor hindrance. It wouldn't be enough to kill the creatures.
Yeah, you have to make sure they're not running anthem spells. If they're not
Yeah.
running anthem spells, then it's pretty damn good. You know,
Yeah.
every soldier token that's going to come out of your Kieldorn outpost.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of
You're gonna
things
go
like
bye-bye.
Mother of Runes.
Mother of Runes.
Like this would be good for dealing with that. Or
Mother of Runes, you can still keep her around, right? How does this work when you give it -1/-1? If you can still tap it to give it pro black, right? Yeah, you can. Because even pro black creatures can survive the Abyss. Although the Abyss doesn't give -1/-1.
yeah, I don't think protection from black would help against Dread of Night.
Shit, we need to figure that out.
It doesn't target, and it doesn't do
target,
damage.
and it doesn't deal damage. But what does protection provide? Does it protection only provide protection from things?
There's an
that do
acronym,
damage?
DET, DEBT, I believe.
We've had this conversation
done.
multiple times.
Yeah, we're so dumb.
Det
Maybe that might be the wrong
Direct
acronym too.
effect. You gonna Google that?
I'm getting it.
I'm gonna go on to
That's
the next one.
Damaged, enchanted, blocked, or targeted.
Okay, so Dread of Night does not damage. Is giving -1/-1 damage? No. It does not enchant. It
No.
just gives or removes. Block. Okay. That's just combat related.
Yeah. It
Doesn't
just does not
target. Okay, so maybe it can get rid of, I think. Our current understanding is correct. It can get rid of Mother's Runes. Again, all of this is Savannah Lions. Again, all this is dependent on your opponent never bringing out an anthem spell. That's what I don't like about
or
it.
playing this before they get it down.
Yeah.
This could slow them down at least. They can't play their creatures before they get the anthem spell out.
That's a good point. It definitely can, because it's just a one mana enchantment. We're not talking 4 mana to get this out.
Yeah.
This could set the white weenie strategy back multiple turns.
Yeah. And if you sideboard 4 of them in, it does seem like the sort of thing that, like, if you're going to have this in your sideboard, you probably want to be swapping 4 of them in, so you can get it quick and have multiple of them. If they do have anthem spells, then you have 3 Dread of Nights down,
Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
Well, there's some discussion about Dread of Night. Next, color hoser. We're moving on to the red color hosers. Havoc. This one was printed only in Tempest. I said earlier, I thought they were all reprinted in 6th edition. They left out Havoc for reasons unknown.
Havoc.
1 colorless, 1 red enchantment. Whenever target opponent successfully casts a white spell, he or she loses 2 life.
So it's like the opposite of warmth.
I think it has a 3.214 on Gatherer. Current market price of 23 cents. I never see this in Premodern sideboards, but it seems like a no-brainer to sideboard in against white decks. Maybe I never see anybody sideboard this in because there just aren't a whole lot of white decks out there making waves in Premodern at the moment. I also say this before looking at the potential card pool in red. I don't know all of the other white hate cards in red.
That's what I'm
so
wondering.
Maybe there's just better options that outclass this. The one thing that did come to mind was Anarchy. So Anarchy always gets brought in.
I forget what Anarchy is.
It's a destroyer. Destroy all white permanents.
Oh, yeah. I see.
A lot of mana, but it destroys all white permanents. And it has great art.
Ice Age?
Originally, yes. Yes, it was an Ice Age card. How many of your sideboard cards do you want to vote to anti-white spells? That's another question. It's only in 2 sideboards on TC decks, which is basically 0.
Wow.
The other cards that I would type into TC decks only returns up to 100 results, and they were all 100. So they're in more than 100 pre-modern decks. Havoc 2, basically unplayed. My guess is it's just that if you're going to run anti-white hate in red, there's other better things that they would rather have in, like Anarchy
Flash fires.
or Flash Fires.
That's
thought
I mean
Flash
that's
Fires
that's a
too.
forecasting cost spell, so I don't know if that's really
Well,
cost-
Anarchy is also
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
devastating.
Bigger
Also, Flash
punch
Fires.
rather than an enchantment that persists.
Flash Fire is not as good unless you're playing mono white deck. It's not as good in a format that doesn't have dual lands,
Right.
because they're reflecting pools, they're pain lands,
They
they're
don't count as
gemstone mines,
planes, yeah.
not planes. So we got Havoc, not a lot of play. I don't think I'll be playing it. And we got Boil,
Ball.
also only printed in Tempest. Boy, am I wrong about that. Classic 6th edition. Multiple world championship decks in 1998, 1999, 2000. 7th
Boy, are you
edition,
wrong?
a 2001 world championship deck, 8th edition, and Amonkhet Invocations. This must be the point where I started messing up the show notes. 3 colorless, 3 colorless, 1 red. I want to get to the Tempest one. These cards, I'm on the record.
I know you hate them.
I hate these cards. They are so expensive. People love showing them off.
The only thing I like is that some of them do have actual good art within the bad frame with the
that's
bad
the
cards.
problem.
I like the art on some of them.
The problem is I hate the frame. I hate the text box.
Yeah.
And that's 60% of the card, 70% of the card. Anyways, I dream of one day like going into a Goodwill. This will never happen because they're obviously expensive because they're rare. I dream of going into a Goodwill and then just finding a box of these because I'll just get to sell them all and I won't feel bad. I'll never miss them. There's plenty of other Magic cards I sell. I miss them afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have you to stare at any longer. I don't have you to touch. I don't want to stare at MK Invocations. Boil, Tempest. 3 colorless, 1 red instant. Destroy all islands.
Boosh.
68 cents is the current market price. It has a 4.144 rating on Gatherer. Always good to see some blue hate. Blue has it too good sometimes. I love blue hate. Facing mono blue, throw in Boil. Running land destruction. Why not sideboard in 1 or 2 of these in place of whatever general land destruction spell you're playing if you face an opponent running blue? I mean, you're playing red land destruction. Let's say you have a Stone Rain in there or something. To face mono blue. Sideboard out your Stone Rain. Pay 1 more to destroy all their islands instead of just getting rid of 1.
Yep.
Makes many appearances in sideboards on TC decks. It's in Ponza, which is land destruction, burn decks, goblin decks. I've seen it in Astral Slide decks. Gets a lot of play.
Nice.
Reprinted multiple times, despite how I started this part of despite how I started this card discussion. I lied when I said it's only in Tempest. Is Tsunami 4 mana or is it 3?
I think it's.
I mean, it's in green. I'm just curious. The same.
Yeah. Okay.
3 colors, 1 green.
Okay. Cool. The only this isn't like an objection or like a critique on Boil. The one thing that just immediately leaps to mind though, is that you can respond to Boil with Gush. To save some of your islands.
Yes, you can.
I just feel like mentioning that for some reason.
Yes, you can. Also, Oracle and Vec flavor text on this one. The fishers will throw out their nets and draw them back filled with dust. This guy is
I see a theme here.
Demented.
I see a theme here with the Oracle and Vec prophesizing bad times.
He's demented. Choke.
Hey, don't hit the messenger.
Choke is the next one. We're on to the green color hosers. Choke was First printed in Tempest, also printed in 8th edition, and in Matt Lindy's 1999 Mono Green Stompy World Championship deck. It's in the sideboard. I wish I had written down all the championship decks that Boyle was in. I left it out.
I like seeing
I-
that these are in some, though. That's cool.
Shit the bed on that one, Alex. It was in like 4 different World Championship decks.
That sounds like a black card.
Shit the bed.
Shit the bed.
2 colorless, 1 green. Enchantment. Islands do not untap during their controller's untap phase. 3.838 on Gatherer. Current market price of $1.52. Same opinion I had on Boyle generally, but not as strong. Still nice to see some blue hate. I'd rather blow islands up than just keep them tapped.
Probably, yeah.
Makes many appearances in sideboards on TC decks, mostly in the Rock and in Terrageddon, 2 decks where you don't have red.
Don't have red,
They
yeah.
don't have the option of running Boyle.
Yeah.
They run Choke again instead. Not again. I meant to say instead.
Yeah. And obviously, 1 mana cheaper. It's not quite as strong, but if you're playing against the counter deck, being able to get it out fast might be a little more helpful because you can get it down before they can counter it.
Yeah. And I mean, the effect is still devastating.
Yeah.
You don't destroy the land, but they don't untap.
Yeah.
So
You're winter orbing them up.
yeah, worse because they don't untap.
Oh, yeah.
Not
just,
even like Winter Orb can untap 1 a turn. They just don't untap. So as long as you can keep that enchantment on the board. What are you going to say about Gush? Say the thing you said about Gush earlier.
You could use Gush
That's
to
true.
return 2 of your tapped islands to your hand so that you can
That
lay
is
them
very
down
true.
and tap them again.
Also applicable to this card. And then we have the final color hoser. This is Reap. There's lots
Is there
of
a card
cards
called So?
with the word Reap. Well, there's a card called Reap and So.
See
Choose
that?
1. Destroy target land or search your library for a land card. Put that card into play. Then shuffle your library. You can entwine for 1 colorless, 1 forest, which means choose both if you pay the entwine cost. Don't know what set this is. We have not made it this far yet. I'm going to go back to Tempest. I'm going to go back to my familiar
Yeah, that's fine.
old border set.
I got worked up there.
1 colorless, 1 green, instant. Return any number of target cards from your graveyard to your hand. You cannot choose more cards than the number of black permanents target opponent controls. Has a rating of 3.057 on Gatherer. Current market price 73 cents. I saw this and I'm like, man, I'm going to put this in my commander deck. I originally thought it would be great. I'm like, hey, Regrowth is 1 colorless, 1 green. I really like Regrowth. It gets a lot of play. You can only use that to bring back 1 card. But then I thought to myself, how often is it that at least one of your 4 opponents is playing black? Well, I'm like, in a commander game, we have 4 people. It's going to be pretty often, so that's good. But then I thought to myself, well, sometimes nobody's going to be playing black. That will happen at a non-0% of the time. How often do I need at least one of my 4 opponents to play black to make this card worthwhile? I thought to myself some more, Alex. That answer might be 100% of the time.
I was going to say
Otherwise-
90, 90 plus.
Otherwise, you're going to have a dead card in your deck.
Dead card.
And I was first like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. It's a regrowth. We can bring back 3 cards, 4 cards, 5 cards. But then if 10% of the time it's going to do nothing, it's going to be a totally dead card in your deck. That seems bad.
Yeah.
And then also, as the commander game progresses, you're going to have fewer and fewer opponents. The likelihood of having an opponent that's playing black is going to get smaller and smaller. So it's a card that's going to get worse and worse for you as the game goes on. That seems bad too.
Yeah.
But all that said, still seems like a good sideboard option, 60 card constructed, if you know you're playing a black opponent. Just limited. I was first hyped about it, and then I very quickly became far less hyped.
The hype faded.
Yeah. I do like cards with Eladamri. I don't know why. His garb It's just very
His
interesting.
garb. He's a wild dresser, that Eladamri.
Yeah.
There is no sow that I can find. We have Gloom Sower, Havoc Sower, Oblivion Sower, Reap What Is Sown, Rift Sower, Sand Sower, Sower of Discord, Sowing Salt,
Sower of Time.
Thalicos Dream Sower.
Dream Sower, okay.
That's from Tempest, actually. Thalicos Dream Sower.
That's when the Thalicoses showed up, Thalakai.
Is it?
I think.
Makes sense.
Maybe in Weatherlight.
I was gonna say Fallen Empires even, but probably not.
Stronghold. That's after Tempest. There we have a Tempest. Tempest.
Okay.
I think they showed up in Tempest.
Yeah. Good call, Steve.
You're welcome. I'm becoming a historian of Magic the Gathering. Going through all these old sets.
Good call. You're welcome.
That's the end of the color hoser segment. So I think we got some really good sideboard options in here. Choke, Boil, Chill are my favorites and will definitely be coming in to sideboards to be determined. To be determined sideboards in the future. Parish is also great. I just don't play as much black, but yeah, Parish is great because I'm thinking about elves.
I feel an urge to have like a brief honorable mention.
Bring it.
But we're going outside of Tempest at this point, so I don't even know if it's like worth like Omen of Fire. Do you remember that card
No,
from Alliances?
no.
This one's interesting because I don't bring this up because I don't know if we're going to go back to Alliances for color hate. I don't know how many cards there are in there, or if we're going to do that segment or not. We could.
I wasn't planning on it. I'm kind of done with Alliances, at least for now.
Yeah, I've had one of these since back in the day, sitting there in my binder.
$2.30 cents.
2 red, 3 colorless. Instant. Return all islands to their owner's hands. Each player sacrifices a plains or white permanent for each white permanent he or she controls. So it hits blue and white simultaneously.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that makes that better or worse. Probably worse.
It's very high casting cost.
Like, and it is, yeah. You're gonna, sideboard this against probably just someone who's playing blue and white.
This would be a very rude commander card to play.
That's also true in Commander. Yeah. It does have a lot more applicability.
It's probably going to piss off all your opponents.
Yes. I like that. Contamination's another one that immediately hops to mind when we start talking about color hate. But now we're into an Urza Saga card. It's way later. There's probably,
we will get there.
Cards that are in between here and there for color hate.
We will get there. But actually, I don't even think of this as necessarily a sideboard. I mean, I think of this as a more of a card that you build around.
You could play this, just a standard card, and then maybe sideboard it out against black.
You got your wooden
love that guy. I love that guy. Another one back there, even farther back. You see him?
You got your second wooden demonic seahorse.
Who knows?
I think it's a her.
You look at me.
Whoa. What did I do? Okay. We're on to segment 2, Alex. That was the something old portion of episode 60. Now we're on to the something new portion of the podcast. Segment 2, we're going to discuss briefly some new Lord of the Rings products. So there's a ton of new holiday season Lord of the Ring product coming out. I don't know all of it. I want to review some of it that looked pretty cool to me. Not all of it looked cool to me, actually. There's one exception, but I still got to show it because I'm going to be like, what is this? What is this, Alex? What are they doing? What have they done to my game? What did they do? They're releasing 24 brand new cards in special gift boxes. They are scene art gift boxes. There's 4 of them. Each box has 6 cards with scene art. You might ask me, Steve, what is scene art? Well, it's like what Alex was describing earlier when he said, oh, that lighted day, it looks like it could be part of a larger art piece from Replenish. Well, they actually do that. they make a large art piece and then they split it up into multiple cards. And if you put the cards side by side, they form a giant scene. And that's what we got here in these 4 gift boxes with 6 scene art cards. You got one here, Gandalf in Pelennor Fields. This is quite a scene.
Yeah.
I've heard talk about Sorcerer's Squall, 6 colorless, 3 blue, big casting cost. Delve. Each card you exile from your graveyard while casting this spell pays for 1 colorless. Target opponent mills 9 cards. Then you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead.
Whoa.
Instants and sorceries are very powerful typically, and you get to play it for free. But also
plus,
not
this is
for
going to
free.
combo with things that you can like use to play cards from the exiled zone. Well, maybe not, because now it's in your opponent's exiled zone, right? After it works, so you might not be able to.
To be honest, to me, we don't play Modern, so like it's very difficult for me to assess the playability of a lot of these cards. Even like the most basic spells that probably don't make it into people's decks ever sometimes look powerful to us because of power creep. We're like, holy shit. But the art is really cool on these.
Yeah, I like this.
Gandalf of Secret Fire. I love red, white, and blue decks because I'm patriotic. I ran these back in the day. I had my Sarah Angel flying over moats, punching people in the face with their shield. Then I'd come across with a fireball and I'd counter spell things. I'd punch him in the face, Sarah Angel over the moat. Then next turn, they'd try to cast a spell. I'd mana drain it. And then my turn, I'd feed that drained mana into a fireball right back at their face. Red, white, blue. So I'm always partial to red, white, blue decks. I like having a red, white, blue legendary creature. I built a Premodern Angel deck just so I could play Lightning Angel, even though it's very hard to cast consistently. Lightning Angel is very good when it's out on the board. It gave me a lot of trouble when you were playing against me and I was on goblins and you had your 3/4.
I didn't have any
with
trouble
vigilance.
getting it out when I was playing that deck.
No,
of
you
yours.
didn't.
It was coming out pretty easy.
It was firing on all cylinders when you were playing it, but it wasn't working very well for me. Potential pilot error? I don't know. Maybe I was doing something wrong. But that's Gandalf and Pelennor Fields. Very cool scene art. Aragorn at Helm's Deep. These do look quite lovely together. So this is a spell that I know for sure the streets are talking about a lot. And even myself, I can recognize this as quite an incredible card. And I'm interested to see what happens to it when people get their hands on it and start playing it. Legolas's Quick Reflex. It's a 1 green instant. It has Split Second, which is the first time I've ever come across this mechanic. Split Second means as long as this spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. So it essentially means anything with Split Second, if I'm interpreting this correctly, is uncounterable.
Yeah.
Because it goes on the stack and then you can't do anything.
Not only that, but it shuts down like any sort of other
Activated abilities,
with the stack or other cards on the stack. So
yes.
Yeah, so seems good.
So you cast this spell, can't be countered. There might be some weird way to counter this with some kind of spell type that I don't know about yet, but I think the way I'm reading this can't be countered. Untap target creature. Until end of turn, it gains hexproof, reach, and whenever this creature becomes tapped, it deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 target creature. So if I read that, if I'm interpreting this correctly, I think, I mean, you untap a creature and then you can simply just attack with it. It gets its attack and then you can use this spell to deal damage equal to its power to another thing, another target creature. So you get attack.
It doesn't even have to deal damage; it just has to become tapped.
Just become tapped, and when you
clear the
attack with something, it taps.
Work, yeah. Or you
unless
just
it has vigilance.
Well, you don't want to put it on a manimal because then its power would be low. But something that
Well, sometimes
if you have sometimes, or if you
I
have
did
some
kill
other
you.
creature in
With
your
the-
deck that's like a big fatty that also has a tap ability for some reason, you know?
I did kill you with an 11-4 Land of War Elves once. I don't know if you
Really?
remember
Yeah.
that or not. So yeah, your manimals sometimes they're pretty buff. But Legolas is quick reflexes. That's
Okay.
getting there's a lot of chatter about that
And
one.
since it gives hexproof to the
On the
thing,
internet.
the creature, like really they can't do anything. It just like shuts down all response.
Yeah.
Almost all response.
In a green deck too. Oh yeah. I want to put this in the pump.
Yeah, that'd be good in the pump for sure.
I cast Legolas as reflexes. No. I have to cast this last. I have to Giant Growth, Berserk, Invigorate, then cast Legolas as reflexes, and then declare my attack. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
I like that it's an instant too, though, because like if they attack you, you can untap one of your creatures to block with, and then you can use its like tap ability if it survives or whatever. So there's a couple cool things you can do with that in different scenarios.
Next scene art, Flight of the Witch King. I thought this
like
was
this.
cool because it gives you additional Nazgul tools.
Nazgul tools.
Nazgul Battle Mace. You now got some Nazgul equipment for your Nazgul deck. It gives you a new legendary Wraith. I believe these are new cards. Yes, these are all new cards. These 24 cards are new cards. Witch King Sky Scourge. 5 colorless, 1 black, 1 red. Legendary creature, Wraith Noble, 5/5 flying. Whenever you attack with 1 or more Wraiths, exile the top X cards of your library, where X is their total power. You may play those cards this turn. That's kind of scary.
It is.
But like you've said many times, there's lots of things people can do in the exile zone.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I don't know what those things are yet. I come from an era where if something was exiled, you were shit out of luck. You didn't want your stuff to be exiled.
No.
Now, apparently, sometimes you want to exile things so you can play them from the exile zone, which used to be a zone where you couldn't play cards from. I don't understand.
Me
It
neither.
also has Undying. When this creature dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways, one day, as we go through all these sets over the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, potentially 140 years, we'll eventually get to the era where exile became a viable zone and there are spells that allow you
And
to
then
enact
we'll know
we'll figure it
something
out.
about this.
Yeah.
And we'll have something to say. It shouldn't be, I just want to go back. That should not be called Undying. It should be called Doesn't Die Once. Because after it happens, it has a +1/+1 counter
That's
on it.
true.
And it won't happen again.
Unless, I mean, you could run this with things that allow you to move counters from some
True.
spells
You
too.
can remove the counters. It's Undying though.
Settle down, Alex. It
Sometimes it doesn't die.
Potentially. Sometimes doesn't die. New mechanic sometimes doesn't die. And then we have the Might of Galadriel. Didn't look too much about this at this one, but very cool art.
I like how they drew the orcs in this at the bottom. And it's also kind of like the orcs in
movies?
What's it? The big card orcish
Bowmasters.
Bowmasters. Yeah, I kind of like that artistic interpretation of the orcs. It's pretty cool.
So there you go. You got a lot of lovely new scene cards to buy for any Magic the Gathering enthusiasts that might want to pick some of these up for the holidays. What else? There's more to the products they're dropping this Christmas. I also came across these. There's a series of cards given special treatment by the Hildebrandts.
Yes.
Borderless Brother Hildebrandt cards. Before we get there, we're going to talk about these. These I don't like at all.
No.
You know, this falls into the category of products that are not for me.
I don't mean to be a hater, but yeah, I'm just not interested in this. It's not that they aren't kind of cool in their own way.
They're very cool in their own way.
For Lord of the Rings, though, it just seems like such a like not the thing to do.
That is true. Flavor fail. But to be honest, they've done this rock poster treatment before, and it's never really on flavor for anything.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to do like a... I'm totally blanking.
There's a few things, like some of the cards that had like already have like a horror psychedelic feel, or like, like I'm thinking of a card like Recurring Nightmare, already sort of
Okay.
looks like one of these posters. Or I had one and I already forgot it. I could see this with some lands. Even the background of the Anduril looks kind of cool, where they show like the mountain slope. That's sort of neat.
I'm forgetting things too. I'm trying to think what sort of Universes Beyond products could the rock poster treatment be good for.
Yeah.
Rock On, Wayne, Saturday Night Live, Mike Myers. What's the movie? I'm totally blanking.
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World. If they ever do a Wayne's World secret lair, you can make rock poster cards.
Wayne's World secret lair
out of Wayne and Garth. Actually, it would be funny. Don't know if it would sell, but it'd be kind of amusing. What's another one? Mockumentary, famous mockumentary about a rock
Spinal
band.
Tap.
Christopher Guest, Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap secret lair would be awesome. I'd buy that.
There you go. So you get Alex to buy a poster, a rock poster borderless card treatment. Probably not.
I would so buy a Spinal Tap secret lair. Sorcery called Smell the Glove.
Are you listening, Wizards? Are you listening? I just don't like it. I don't like it as a Magic card. You can't read it. You can't read these.
It's disruptive. It's hard to.
I'm probably
down across for me and it's upside down. I'm like, what does it say?
It makes me dizzy. It makes me nauseous. I'm probably the 10,000th old man to be like, I can't read this secret layer card. What the hell is this shit? But this is really out there now.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's good as a card. Now, if they wanted to release these as some sort of special products, when they would do the giant cards, the promo cards.
Yeah.
Like, there's a giant black one. This would be a cool thing to release at a large scale.
Yes.
Almost like a cardboard poster.
I like them as posters.
You could actually frame. Yeah. But when it comes to something that's like a small size, the size of an actual card, it becomes too hard to read. It's not good as an art piece necessarily. It's not good as a game piece. So
I could see something like an ATOG being done in this art style. Because the ATOGs are already sort of like weird and psychedelic looking,
Yeah.
That might be neat. Plus, it's simple. It doesn't need a lot of text to describe it.
This isn't me trashing the art. It's me trashing.
Yeah, the art's good.
Yeah.
It's just.
And I not trashing anything, actually, criticizing the. I'm trying to figure out like what's the use case for these? What's the reason for making these? I don't know. I actually would like.
I like some of these a lot. Like they're cool.
This is actually pretty cool. Yeah.
The Radagast's cool. Yeah.
I would like. I think some of these more if they took these cases where they had secret layers that were really just art pieces. Like this is not practical as a game piece. You can't read it. But really just art pieces and release them at different scales.
Why not? Like, there's all this discussion around like Wizards of the Coast reprinting too much and having the wrong pace of reprints. And it's like, I know they need to make money. It's like, they're in business. So why not exploit that sort of, like channel more? They could be making posters for people. They could be making things to sell like that are larger art pieces in addition to the cards.
Do they do this and we just don't know about it already? Yeah, because they should. Now, if they don't do it, they should.
It seems so obvious, that they should. So maybe they do, but I never see people talk about it or mention it online. And I'm like, why not? Why wouldn't you make posters of it? Because a lot of this art, I'd like it without the words even. I'd like to get just the base art without the text.
Because you can't read the text anyway.
Yeah.
It makes me dizzy and I fall over.
I would love a Tom Bombadil poster that looks like this. It doesn't have to look like a Magic card at all. It doesn't have to have mana symbols on it. It could just have that art and say Tom Bombadil.
That is true. We don't run a $1 billion company, but yeah. There are a lot of people that they collect this stuff just for the art. why not release some of it or more of it if they already do this at some scale in formats that are more common in the art world, like poster size prints,
Well, and I know
large prints that can
playmats.
be framed.
Playmats are a huge thing.
They do it in
Wizards could be
playmats,
making,
yeah.
playmats with all this stuff on it.
I
don't
think they
know.
do make playmats. I don't know how
I think
long.
so too.
If they release these as large prints that could be framed or poster size cards or even just art books, and they did that regularly,
Coffee table book.
I think we would know about it because we have been following for the last year and a half, like pretty much every new release. I don't see that stuff, but
And
they
people
really should
argue about this all the time and no one brings it up.
They really should do that for stuff like this, for products like this, because I do not like it as a card, a tiny little card. You can't I don't like it. Anyways, now that was a lot of rambling, but on to something that I do really like. I love these cards, Borderless Brothers Hildebrandt cards. I think these look so good.
I like some more than others, but some of them I like a lot.
Definitely, yeah. Some are better than others. Greg and Tim Hildebrandt, but I really like the style of all of them.
Yeah, they have this very old school,
almost claymation like.
Almost what?
Almost like advanced claymation like. There's something about the way the characters are
like collage-ish, like they cut out these images and like Treebeard, Ellis events, like this is great. So weird. I love this one. Wallace and Gromit character.
Yeah. Doran, the siege tower. They reprinted 2 of the legendary lands.
Yeah.
In this particular set, the Hildebrandts. I did not. Maybe I missed it. I was saying this to you the other day. Maybe I missed it in the previous Lord of the Rings releases, but I don't think they printed Hammerheim or Urborg prior, did they?
I don't think so.
But they are here now. Hammerheim, Urborg. Down here, Tower of Cirith Ungol. You know what? I didn't find them before, but maybe I missed them because for these lands they were assigning unique Lord of the Rings related names to them.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up right now. I'm not seeing it though. I didn't I searched for Edoras and it doesn't. That one's the only one that comes up on TCG Player.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is the first time they had released these. I think it's the first time Urborg or Hammerheim have been printed since Legends, which maybe people don't care about these cards any longer. But I love these cards from Legends. Back in the day, there weren't nearly as many non-basic lands to play, and it was always great to throw in a legendary non-basic land to give you your mana color or some special ability if it was useful in any particular moment.
Yeah, we were just talking about this the other day, and just to reiterate what you said, back in the day there were just fewer options for lands, so it was easy to be like, I'm going to take out a swamp and put it in Urborg, and it'll do something for me sometime. Yeah, it was just kind of a no-brainer, and I like seeing them back, and I would like to see maybe like, I don't know, some sort of like niche format or mini format where lands like this can thrive, where maybe you, I don't know, have only basic lands and lands that are utility lands, but not dual lands or multicolored lands or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Urborg was actually more useful back in the day. Like this target creature loses first strike or swamp walk doesn't seem all that.
It's not terrible.
Useful, but you're playing old school creature based decks. Like you have a mono black deck. I mean, this comes in handy with some black knights. This comes in handy against white weenies. Mm-hmm. You're facing anthemed tundra wolves or their white
sideboard
knights.
Stuff against you.
Their white knights, your black knight. You can remove first strike from their white knight, kill it with your black knight. Useful against elvish archers if you're going toe to toe. Black knight, elvish archer. It comes in handy. Sometimes in the old school environment. Mm-hmm. Worship is a reprint of a Premodern card. Enchantment. If you control a creature, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead.
What set's that from?
One of the Urza's sets. I believe Urza's Saga. Timber Protector. That's great art. Tempt with Discovery. Sylvan
Worship
Tudor.
was in 7th edition, 8th edition, 9th edition, and Urza's Saga.
Okay. Sylvan Tudor, I don't know how often this is reprinted, but it's a cool little tutor. 1 green sorcery, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top.
Why? How is that different from Worldly Tutor?
I think
That's a
it's the
stupid
same.
question. Oh, it's the same.
Look it up, but I
Sylvan-
believe it's the same.
Sylvan Tutor was in Portal. That's probably why. It's probably a functional reprint that they renamed in Portal.
Second Harvest, Soul's Attendant, Stone Hero Giant, but really, yeah, like the appeal of these cards for me is just the art. I really like the art. Pact of Negation, I think, is a pretty popular card from Future Sight, which we haven't made it that far yet, but I know this because I was just looking at Future Sight today, because there are a couple modern sets. I haven't purchased any modern frame cards yet, except for like a few borderless variants or secret layers here and there. Never purchased just a standard modern frame card from a standard set. But Future Sight is one of a couple different sets that I've been looking at. I'm like, oh man, kind of want to start buying some modern. I can't yet because I still have so many pre-modern cards I want to buy, so many old schools cool cards I want to buy, and money's limited. But there's some cool stuff in Future Sight. There's really cool stuff in Lorwyn. There's a couple others I've been looking at. Pact of Negation is one of the most expensive cards in Future Sight. Don't know how much it goes for exactly, maybe like $20 to $30. 0 casting cost, instant counter target spell. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you have to pay 3 colors or 2 blue. If you don't, you lose the game.
Huh.
But that is a cool way to tap out
Oh, yeah.
with a blue deck and still be able to counter something. And hey, if you got 5 mana on the board, you could do that.
And
no
you don't
worries.
have to lose a card like with Force of Will, so that's great. If your
Yeah.
cards are precious late in the game.
I think that card gets a lot of play. You could
Yeah, I've heard of it
imagine that it would. So that's about it. That's what I wanted to talk about for the Lord of the Rings stuff. The scene cards.
Yeah, those all look good.
Reflexes.
There was one other thing. Did you see the Nazgul? They are reprinting the Nazgul again, which is good news for people who are having trouble finding them. And they're doing them in this, it's a scroll treatment. You had it up, I think, a minute ago with that Gollum card with the scroll treatment.
Was there a scroll treatment card that I saw? Because I had seen scroll treatment cards, but
Yeah,
I didn't.
I'm not sure when it came up, but it was before you looked at that last section with the poster cards. I don't remember now.
I don't think I pulled them up because I had seen a few pictures of the scroll treatments, but I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's on the article that I had up on my computer.
Yeah, I know you were wrong because I was like, I didn't put any links to any of the school treatment cards in the show notes.
But yeah, they have the border looks like a scroll, but they're doing the Nazgul in that treatment, so they'll be reprinted in that style.
I think there's a link to them here, and I think I didn't like that when I saw them.
I kind of don't love it overall because I just don't think it looks super good. Like I feel it looks kind of fake, like computery, like how they made the scroll look. But the Nazgul cards look pretty decent in it.
Look, I clicked this link. Check the official card image gallery from WOTC to see them all. Okay. A link. I clicked the link.
Do it. Okay.
No cards match your criteria. I haven't spent a lot of time trying to find stuff on the official Magic the Gathering website, magic.wizards.com. But I do consistently find it difficult to navigate. And I'm often going to other companies' sites, like Star City Games, for instance, anytime I want to look up cards from new releases and stuff.
Yeah.
I think Wizards' website is just consistently a mess. Now, I'm trashing Wizards. This link error might be the fault of Star City Games, but I don't know. I'm not going to go through the effort of finding the scroll treatment.
You can imagine it. We can all imagine it.
Yeah.
The words appear in a scroll box.
Let's go on to segment 3, Alex. I have a very brief segment 3 that I
Okay.
wanted to discuss. The Premodern European Championships occurred this past weekend. It was held in Darmstadt, Germany. How do I pronounce that?
I can't see it, but that
Darmstadt.
sounds right.
Darmstadt. If you missed it and you're interested, you can still catch all of the action on the Wak MTG Twitch channel. That's WAK Wak, followed by another WAK Wak MTG. It's twitch.tv/WAK MTG, Wak MTG. The stream is over 14 hours if you're interested in watching the whole thing. A lot of it is just drunk Europeans chatting in between games. So you can always just scroll through that, find the gameplay if that's what you're most interested in. I shouldn't say they're drunk. I don't even know. I don't know if they're drunk. I didn't make it to the end of the stream, but they did early on in the streams, I believe, say something about how they were going to be getting drunker throughout the day.
How they were
So
puking from alcohol.
I'm assuming they had drank a lot of beer over the course of those 14 hours. 181 players. That's a pretty large pre-modern tournament. I think one of the largest ever held. The top 8 were Elves, 5-color weenie, blue-white tempo deck, Landstill deck, a Replenish deck, a Dead Guy L deck, an Enchantress deck, and another Replenish deck. So
until you got to the end, I was going to say they're all different. They're not no repeats, but
and the top 8. But that is good variety.
Still
so
a lot of difference. Yeah,
I'm surprised no Stifle Knot. Maybe the Europeans don't like to play Stifle Knot as much. Didn't see how many Stifle Knot people entered the fray. If Lantax wasn't banned, I wonder how many parfaits would be up there. I don't know. I wanted to just bring up the 5-color weenie. I wanted to highlight the deck that came in second. Saw the deck pick posted on Twitter. Alex, say deck pick 5 times fast. Posted by Phil Wynn at MTG Banding on Twitter. You can also follow Wak MTG on Twitter at Wak MTG. This is the 5-color weenie deck, piloted by Jacob Poulsen. I thought this was really cool. So I've already said in this very same episode that I love red, white, and blue decks. And I started playing one in Premodern that I first saw run by, can't remember the guy's name, but he owns Misty Mountain Games in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm just blanking right now. People sometimes call it the Solution in Premodern, but that gets confusing because there's an older deck called the Solution that I think is just a blue-white deck, and it's a completely different deck. So sometimes they call it Patriot. Sometimes they call it Star Spangled Slaughter. I just call it the Premodern Angel deck. And I started playing it because I just wanted to play Lightning Angel. But this deck is very similar to the Angel deck, except they remove Lightning Angels. So the deck that I put together and the deck that I played against you, you played against me a little bit. It had 4 bolts, it had fire and ice, it had 4 swords to plowshares, it had 4 meddling mage. I put in 4 silver knights, 4 mother of runes. I ran 3 or 4 lightning angels. I think I ran a few exalted angels. So this person just made it more of a standard weenie deck. Remove the lightning angels, put in Savannah Lions. I love seeing Savannah Lions, an old school card, in what is still an old frame format, but a newer format, because I just love the Lions. Taking that out, or taking out the Lightning Angel, putting the Savannah Lions, smooths out the mana base a little bit. So your creatures are all white or 1 white, 1 blue. So you're able to consistently play your creatures more often than I'm able to when I'm running the Lightning Angels, I'm assuming. Also smooth out the mana base. This guy has 4 Mox Diamonds, which I don't have. That always helps. But it's more similar to a traditional weenie package. You got a 2/1, a 1/1, 2 2s, 2 2s. Back here, it's one of those Soltari cards. Soltari Priest. I can't remember which one it is. But it's a 2 white, I think a 2/1 with Shadow. So
Oh, okay.
a shadow weenie creature. And then you have your big Exalted Angel, because you just got to put an Exalted Angel in at least one. And when this guy hits the board, it's game changing. I mean, if it just gets one, if it gets through for one hit, it introduces an 8-point life differential, 4 points off your opponent, 4 points life gain for you. So I really like how he changed this up. He made it more of a weenie package. And I also like this idea. Maybe people have done this before, but it's not what I was doing. 3 Enlightened Tutors, and then like a series. This is what makes it 5 color. A series of useful toolbox enchantments that come in handy.
I like that.
For all sorts of decks that are popular in the pre-modern meta. You got your Engineered Plagues for your goblins and your elves. That helps a lot. They'll pick off, this will pick off some of your creatures too, but if you get your Crusade, you can pump them up. Got your Seal of Cleansing to get rid of, potentially obnoxious enchantments, artifacts. You got your Winter Orb if you're playing against a mana hungry deck, maybe a deck that's not playing Mox Diamonds, a deck with a higher mana curve. You're mostly 1 and 2 drops here in Mox Diamonds, so the Winter Orb is not going to be a problem for you almost ever, except with the Exalted Angel. But you could always morph this out too. And then the Rancor, because why not have a Rancor?
Mm-hmm.
So I was impressed by this. It's, except for the Mox Diamond, a budget deck, and yes, the Mox Diamond does introduce an additional $2,000 expense if you want to have 4, but you don't.
Well, I mean,
need...
you're trying to win a pre-modern tournament, right?
Yes. If you're trying to win a European tournament, get the Mox Diamonds. But if you're just playing with your buddies, you don't need the Mox Diamonds, and this deck will still
play some Lotus Petals.
Work pretty well, I think. So I just wanted to highlight the 5 color weenie. That was my favorite deck that I saw.
I like that. Yeah, it was similar to your deck, but a little bit different, and I like it. It would be fun to play.
Love it. That's all I got for today, Alex.
Me too.
I think I'm done with episode 60. If you don't have any words of wisdom for the reviewers, we're just going to end this right now. I'm just going to stop the recording. I'm going to cut the stream. Are we cutting it?
Pull it.
Talk to you later.
Later.
Okay.